Welcome back to Flashbacks. I'm Tony from Comic Book Fans United, and while there isn't a new episode of The Flash this week, I decided to take this time to do something a little special. Now, I already feel like The Flash is a near perfect interpretation of the character Barry Allen and his side characters, and what changes that they have made, I feel, have improved the character overall. But here are 5 things that I feel are missing from the show that would make it even better. So number 5 is, I'd like to see Keystone play a bigger role on the show. Now, we already have Barry protecting Central City, and in the comics, there's always a Flash in Central City and in Keystone. Now, obviously there's only one Flash right now, so Barry working solo in Central City makes sense. But by the end of this season, we're going to have a Wally West. We don't know if he's going to have super speed yet. But there's also Jay Garrick out there. There's going to be a Jesse Quick. We don't know if those characters are going to go back to Earth 2 or decide to stay on Earth 1 and becoming recurring characters on the show. If they do decide to stay, I'd like to see them actually move to Keystone and see kind of like the A stories always be about Barry in Central City, and then maybe occasionally get a B story with one of those characters protecting Keystone and introducing new rogues that are just unique to Keystone. So number 4 is going to be the inclusion of Abracadabra. Now, he's a Flash villain from the future who comes back in time and uses technology from the future and tries to pass it off as magic. And the reason why I want to see him come into play is because we've already seen Barry take on speedsters, we've already seen him take on giant animals, and he's fought off quite a number of the rogues already. Abracadabra's kind of just like a fresh new villain with his own unique take. He's got a really interesting look. I don't know how they could possibly adapt him to TV without making him look completely ridiculous, but maybe that's just it. Maybe you just embrace the ridiculousness of it. It's worked for the tricksters already, so why not Abracadabra? Number 3 is going to be the inclusion of Roscoe Dillon, better known as the Top. Now, what makes the Top special is that he does have superhuman speed, but unlike Zoom and the Reverse Flash, he doesn't necessarily use it to run, he uses it to spin, and part of that is also tied into his other powers, which are kind of like telekinesis in a sense. The reason why I'd like to see this character introduced is because not only is he yet another speedster that you can always have him match, you know, power for power almost with the Flash, although it is very different, it's that his mindset going into it is going to be a little different from what we've seen already on the show from some other villains. The Top is kind of, in a weird sort of way, like the Joker. He's got that same kind of demeanor where you don't exactly know what you're going to get from him. You don't know if he's going to be the most evil person in the world or if he's just going to be kind of like slapsticky one minute. The real reason though why I always really like this character though comes from the series Rogue War, where, I'm not going to spoil too much, but let's just say that over time in the mythos of the Flash, in the storyline of the Flash, some of the rogues go legit. And the Top is actually one of those characters, and something causes him to realize that that's not who he is. And he kind of sets a lot of pieces in motion that cause this whole big fight between different factions of rogues. And I always really liked him from that story, and his persona just, you know, would really pop on the screen. So I'd like to see Roscoe Dillon show up on the show. Number 2 is going to be the suit that Wally West will eventually wear on the show. Now, I've thought about this one for a little bit, and ultimately, I'm just not a big fan of the look of the Wally West suit in the New 52. It's just boring. It's a lot of silver and gray with some red highlights. It doesn't really stand out. I've always been a big fan of the yellow and red suit that he wears. It's almost kind of like an inverse of the Flash's suit. And what I've come to think about was that what would be a really cool idea is if they take the costume of the Reverse Flash from Season 1 and modify it and give that to Wally, to have him wear that. It'd be a great way to win back that color scheme and give it new meaning. It's a great, you know, base for a costume already. It already looked great on screen, so why not do it again? Just change the cowl and change the chest emblem, and boom, you got a great Wally West costume. And the number 1 thing I'd like to see on the Flash is the inclusion of Mirror Master. He's my absolute favorite rogue of the entire run of Flash comics. Now, while Captain Cold has always been the designated leader of the rogues, Mirror Master has essentially been their getaway driver. He uses these twin pistols that he has to create portals out of reflective surfaces, like either a mirror or a still body of water or even ice. Perfect for something to pair up with Captain Cold. I've always particularly been fond of the second Mirror Master, Evan McCullough. He's Scottish, so he would have an accent that makes him stand out from the other rogues. And the other really cool thing about Evan McCullough is that you get the idea of the mirror worlds. Now, much like how there's the multiverse already established on the DC Universe, with Mirror Master there's a mirror world where everything can be just reversed. Heroes are villains, allies are enemies. There are some characters that are normal civilians or normal people on the real world, where in the mirror world they're actually supervillains, like the character Plunder. And he just opens all these doorways, and he'd be such a perfect fit for this show that I'm kind of wondering why they haven't included him already. And that about wraps it up for this episode. As always, I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments below. Let me know if there's any characters you'd like to see show up on the show, or maybe a particular storyline you'd like to see adapted for TV. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you've been enjoying the series, and subscribe to the channel and share the links to help the channel grow. Also, be sure to check us out over at Geekade.com and come join the discussion at Comic Book Fans United in the links below. I'll be back next week with the big crossover with Arrow. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.